I don't know that I have ever voted for a Democrat. But if I lived in Arizona now, I absolutely would. And for governor and for Secretary of State. And I think, we cannot be in a position where we elect people who will not fundamentally uphold the sanctity of elections.
And that was Republican Congresswoman Liz Cheney at a McCain Institute event in Tempe last week. She was advising a Republican questioner to do what she'd do: vote for Democrats Katie Hobbs and Adrian Fontes. We're back with our political insiders, Christine Jones and Tony Cani. Liz Cheney has taken her crusade against Donald Trump and his fellow election deniers from Capitol Hill to audiences all over the country. I think she was in New York State later in the week. Tony Cani, do you think that Liz Cheney will appear in any of Katie Hobbs or Adrian Fontes' ads, or should they?
I don't know. I mean, it might work, right? I mean, if you've got the money to spend, and I think they've both done well with fundraising, they can get the word out. At this point in the campaign, you're trying to get your supporters to the actual polls, and you're trying to get those last-minute people who haven't made up their minds whether or not to vote for you. And I think that there is some territory that they could mine with, with this. Just her statement enough in the news coverage, I think, might help give, some Republicans permission to cross over.
And it's so interesting because in 2018 and 2020, it's clear that Republicans provided a margin of victory for Democrats. And now you have many Republicans, well-known Republicans, openly saying, I'm voting for Katie Hobbs and Adrian Fontes. So what do you think? Is it a permission slip for more Republicans to do that?
Perhaps, but the people who have decided to cross over have already decided to cross over. And the Trump enthusiasm, which we've seen because every single Trump-endorsed candidate won their primary here in Arizona, is way stronger than anything Liz Cheney is going to say. In fact, I would posit that it possibly actually helps Kari, because when the Republicans look at Liz Cheney and say, I'm not voting with that loser, and oh, by the way, you don't vote in Arizona, lady, don't tell me how to vote, I think it actually probably weighs in Kari's favor. Let's hope, because, well, you didn't ask that, question.
You went there.
But honestly, the Liz Cheney effect, probably because the Trump rally this afternoon is going to talk about what a loser she is, I think probably weighs in Kari's favor.
Okay, let's look at the Trump rally this afternoon. You have Donald Trump holding a rally in Mesa, the Arizona Trump ticket, as he now calls it. It's not the Republican ticket. Plus, out-of-town luminaries like Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene are scheduled to appear. Is this the look the party wants, just as ballots go out?
It says it all that Marjorie Taylor Greene is going to be there. I think that what's happening is there hasn't been the amount of consolidation of the Republican votes that I think some of these Republican candidates want. So it's like, let's get Trump here, we can drive enthusiasm, get everybody up. But when it comes to the big picture with this narrow chunk of people that still are undecided that I'm talking about, I just think this visit is going to be disastrous, because I think the people who are excited about him coming, they're probably already going to vote. They probably already decided. And so this is more of an exercise in, trying to get media about his issues, not about the candidates.
Disastrous?
Well, I'm not sure why Marjorie Taylor Greene is relevant to this particular race. And if I were picking the slate of speakers, I might have said, why don't we forego that particular Congresswoman? However, to Tony's point, I do think it's important for Trump to be here this afternoon, because in the end, this election will be about turnout. And they can't assume, voters cannot assume that they have these races won. Every single Republican voter needs to show up to the poll, and that Trump is really good at helping. So I think in the end, on the balance, it probably is helpful.
That's been the theme. It's all about the base and turnout. Okay, looking ahead to Wednesday really quick, when the PBS will air an interview with Kari Lake, one-on-one interview with the candidate for governor after Katie Hobbs rejected a debate. The October surprise. Are we going to see Katie Hobbs show up at the last minute and say, hey, I'm here. Let's do it?
Well, that's been my dream, and I have engaged with her on Twitter and other places. I would love it if she would show up, because she doesn't have to do 55 debates like I did, but just one, Katie, just one for the voters, for the people of Arizona that you are going to represent. Please show up and demonstrate that you are powerful enough and strong enough and brave enough. And oh, by the way, look in the camera and tell the voters why they should vote for you instead of Kari Lake. Please, I beg you, show up.
I think that when I watched the Secretary of State's debate, I finally understood clearly why she didn't want to have that debate. It was, Ted Simon's great. It was very hard to counter all of the lies that Mark Finchem was saying in that debate. And I just think that that's the decision that she's made as a campaign, is they don't want to air that out. Who watches debates? People who've already made up their mind. And so I would love to watch it. I'd watch that debate, but I think that they've been clear about their reasoning.
So no October surprise. Okay. Darn. Christine Jones, Tony Cani, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having us.
And that's our show for this week. Thanks very much to all of our guests, and thank you so much for joining us. We'll see you back here next weekend for another round of Sunday Square Off.